Hi guys, this is Matt Schlicht from Zapchain, and I'm here with Olaf, Carlson, the head of risk at Coinbase, and also the first employee at Coinbase, if I got that right.
Yes, indeed.
So welcome. Thank you so much for helping us with this Bitcoin course. I think Bitcoin can be kind of complicated for a lot of people, and this should help them have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin's complicated for everyone.
Yeah, so let's help at least a little bit. So tell us a little bit about Coinbase. I'm sure a lot of people already know what it is, but...
Absolutely. So Coinbase is a Bitcoin wallet, fundamentally. We have a lot of different services that we provide on top of that. So we do merchant transactions, we do buy and sell services for regular users who want to get some Bitcoin or sell some Bitcoin, and we have an API for developers where they can build applications on top of the Bitcoin protocol without having to interact with it directly.
Right, and then, I mean, Coinbase is one of the leading Bitcoin companies right now, so how much capital have you raised? When was the company started? Kind of like how many employees work there?
Yeah, great question. So the company was founded about 2 years ago. We've raised $32 million to date from Union Square Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, and a number of other credible investors. We have gone in the last year from 6 to a little over 40 employees, so it's been a little bit of a wild ride. Yeah, I hope that we can continue to expand aggressively in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, we're in the Coinbase office right now.
Yep.
And this may be, you guys can't tell this from this video, but this office is very secure. There's no way that you could get into this office if you were not supposed to be inside of this office. I think you guys have done a really great job at...
It was my job to audit the security of the office.
Right, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So how, you're at Coinbase now, you're helping protect Coinbase and its customers.
Yep.
And the merchants. But how did you originally get into Bitcoin?
Yeah, great question. So I first found out about Bitcoin the summer of 2011. To be honest, I was immediately incredibly fascinated by it. The prospect of a fully decentralized, fully programmatic currency that wasn't controlled by a single entity, but rather by the network of users, was incredibly fascinating. I think, within a week, I was wiring money around the world to buy Bitcoin. I was kind of telling all my friends and family about Bitcoin. I was exploring the space as much as possible, looking at all the companies that existed, all the users, talking to a lot of people. So I was also going into my senior year of college, and I was already studying decentralized online networks, things like massively multiplayer online role-playing games, MMORPGs,
Yep.
And also decentralized internet systems, so things like the torrent protocol, the Tor protocol, onion routing, things like that. And I decided to write my undergraduate thesis on these cryptography networks, specifically Bitcoin. So it was a little strange at that time because I remember when I told my professors about it, they had me search the JSTOR academic database and search it for the word Bitcoin, and there were 0 results. And they said, how are you supposed to write a research thesis on something where there's no research? With some kind of savvy dialogue, I think I eventually convinced them that this was a legitimate thing, or that at least the fundamentals behind it meant something for society. But it was quite a process to really convince everyone that this was a good idea. And it ended up being me educating my professors more than it was my professors helping me out. But in the end, I completed a thesis on Bitcoin decentralized cryptographic networks. May 2012, the Bitcoin space was still very, very immature, even though I'd been working on this thesis the whole time. During that time, the price was also dropping from the peak of $31 down to $2. So a lot of people were saying Bitcoin was dead. I was still super convinced that the technology had long-term potential and that it really was going to change the way we thought about monetary control, monetary policy, payments, and just decentralization in general. So I surveyed the space. There weren't any what I felt really legitimate companies. None that had the vision I wanted. I wanted a really grand vision that was going to take on, the financial systems that be. I think that over time I started exploring and I found out about Coinbase. So I was Coinbase user about number 30. I was looking very closely at new services coming out. And when I realized I could buy and sell with a bank account, which no other company could offer, I recognized that this was the winner. The founders had a very grand vision for what they wanted to do with the company, and that's really what got me involved with Coinbase.
That's awesome. So this thesis that you wrote,
Yep.
did you release it publicly?
No, I did not. So I'm currently expanding it into a full-length book. That's been in the works for a long time, so I don't want to release kind of the version 0.1.
So did we just announce the book just now?
No. I mean it's not done.
I know, but have you told anybody that you're writing?
Oh
a book?
yeah, absolutely.
Like publicly?
Well, no.
All right.
People
So
at
you heard it
Coinbase,
here first. Yeah. Olaf from Coinbase is coming out with a book all about Bitcoin.
Yeah. So it's pretty technical, but I also think it's interesting if you're into Bitcoin. So I don't think it's for beginners, unlike this course. But
your book's like the follow-up.
Yeah. I think the course, then maybe a year of involvement, and then the book maybe.
Right.
The book's pretty intense.
I'm excited.
Yeah, but I was working onto a full-length book, and also I think that the thesis, the viewpoints there don't necessarily represent the viewpoints of the company. So I definitely want to keep those separate.
Got it. So you did your thesis, you're finishing up college, and then you're looking for like a company you're going to work for. And
Yep.
So you found Coinbase, and so you were or are employee number one.
Yep.
So like, how did you do that? Like, did you just reach out to
Yeah,
Coinbase,
so
or?
I was visiting a friend in Oakland, and I literally just applied online. There were only 2 jobs, customer support and software engineer. I'm not a software engineer, so I applied for the customer support job. Fred got back to me within 5 minutes and said, let's Skype later today. So he was on the ball, and I went through the process really quickly. I was in the office, I think 2 days later, did a long interview with Brian and Fred, and I really, really liked them, and I liked their vision, I think, more than anything. A lot of Bitcoin companies were trying to, what I thought felt like make a quick buck, and I wanted to kind of reinvent the financial institutions of the world, which is obviously a grand vision, and I think they kind of shared that. So that was really what drew me to it.
And so, like, you applied as customer support, but is that actually what you did when you started?
Yeah, so when I started, I was customer support. I did solo customer support until we had about 250,000 users. I ended up automating a lot of my tasks in order to get that done, because I think I was doing about 700 emails a day by myself,
wow,
which was really, really intense. Over time, it became clear that we were going to need to scale that. So we started talking to a lot of people for another person to be at the office, and it became clear pretty quickly that we were growing way too fast and that we weren't going to be able to scale an in-house customer support team. So instead, we decided to do a really cool thing, which was I knew there were a lot of really smart people in the online forum communities with Bitcoin, so particularly Reddit, Bitcoin Talk, and a handful of other forums. I thought that there were some people that really knew Bitcoin well. They were avid Coinbase users, and they were really smart. So what I did was I put together a test. It was kind of a Bitcoin test meets the SAT a little bit. And I posted on these forums, and I said that if you get a perfect score, you're going to get an interview. So I was trying to kind of entice people to take it. And we had a pretty remarkable turnout. I think something like 200 people took this test. So I found the first 8 people in about a week based on those test scores. Reached out to a lot of them. I reached out to a number of people who took that test and interviewed them and basically scaled up a team incredibly fast. So this was at a time last November, December, when we doubled our user base in about 4 weeks, and the number of tickets, customer support emails we were receiving, went up about 4x in 2 or 3 weeks. Like it was crazy.
Wow.
So I hired a lot of people very, very, very fast, and the only way we were able to do that was by running a remote team.
So you have a distributed support team.
Yeah, distributed support team for the distributed currency.
Right.
So the support team, they're all awesome, top notch, super smart people. They're coming from all around the world. So we have people in Paris, Germany, New Caledonia, coast to coast in the United States. So we have people everywhere. and they're all Bitcoin experts. So my thought was, I can teach someone to do a good job with customer support. It's going to be very hard to teach someone the fundamentals of Bitcoin and the intricacies of Coinbase's payment architecture, just to onboard them, to get them up and running. And we were trying to scale so fast. I mean, I was hiring 3-4 people a week at the peak probably, that I needed people to hit the ground running. So I got these really, really knowledgeable people. Most of them are still working with us a year later. So that has been an awesome experience.
Do you pay them in Bitcoin?
Yes. All of them.
That was like the best answer possible.
Yeah, I get paid in Bitcoin too.
100% of your paycheck?
100% of my paycheck for the last year and a half has been in Bitcoin.
And are you holding on to the Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I try to stay within the Bitcoin network as much as possible. I pay my rent in Bitcoin, and I generally pay for food and drinks with Bitcoin because I have roommates and I have them foot the bill, and then I'll pay them in Bitcoin.
Got it.
So it's kind of a hack for the time being until the grocery stores take Bitcoin directly. But a lot of my fundamental expenses I can pay in Bitcoin, and then I try to buy, when available, all the stuff I can buy online with Bitcoin. So a lot of the partnerships that we make actually service me directly. Stuff like Overstock and Dell and Expedia and everything.
So you're basically the motivating factor behind the Coinbase BD team.
Yeah, so I have kind of a personal vested interest in landing some of those deals, definitely.
So like, what's something you can't buy right now that you're really frustrated about?
Oh man, gas and food. You can buy gift cards in Bitcoin and then use those gift cards, but it feels
like
like
cheating.
It's too much of a hack, yeah. And the end company doesn't realize anyone's paying in Bitcoin. They're not being encouraged to really accept Bitcoin. So, I think that right now it's a lot of those fundamentals. Right now we're looking at a system where you can buy a lot of weird things online with Bitcoin, especially high-end electronics. Luckily, I'm a huge geek, so that kind of makes sense for me.
Someone actually sent me a link to buy an island with Bitcoin yesterday.
Yeah. I think real estate is surprisingly active with Bitcoin, and high-end cars. But it's mostly kind of very expensive, specialized goods. And I'm looking for a shift for Bitcoin to be used for just more normal day-to-day things.
Right.
I think that's going to take a while, but I think eventually it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, someday hopefully you can just like walk down the street and go get like a coffee.
And I'm hoping it will fundamentally improve the payment experience long term, where you won't have to slide a card and sign or anything, but it can just be pre-authorized, potentially even just like from your phone in your pocket. So then maybe not for very large purchases, but if it's like under $100. You could just walk up, they scan the good, and it's just paid for because of some sort of kind of Bluetooth communication or NFC communication, something like that. So I want to make the payment experience totally invisible because that's when I think it's the best.
Right. Because why should we even have to deal with it?
Yeah, exactly.
If I have the Bitcoins and you have the sandwich, like, why can't we just
why can't we just
have a
trade?
seamless exchange?
Yeah.